Hotels promise sanctuary, but in Hollywood's shadow, these temporary havens became permanent chapters in entertainment history. Behind polished marble lobbies and brass elevator doors, some of the brightest stars found their darkest moments. From the decadent 20s through today's streaming age, a peculiar pattern emerges. Time and again, careers that blazed across screens ended quietly in rented rooms, far from the Klieg lights and adoring crowds. These weren't just tragedies. What draws the famous to hotel rooms in their final hours? Why do these private endings become public mythology? Through decades of carefully documented accounts and eyewitness testimony, we'll trace the invisible thread connecting jazz-age starlets to modern-day influencers, all united by their choice of final venue. No sensationalism, no exploitation, just the stories themselves and the cultural tremors they created. John Belushi, Chateau Marmmont, Los Angeles, 1982. Suite number 3 of the Chateau Marmmont is a storybook Spanish bungalow perched above Sunset Boulevard. In early '82, it was comedian John Belushi's hideout between film shoots. Friends dropped in at all hours, actors, guitar legends, studio execs looking for a laugh. But the pace that made him Saturday Night Live's wild man also soaked him in every stimulant Hollywood could offer. On the night of March 4th, Belushi ordered steaks from room service, then slipped in and out of visits with Robin Williams and Robert De Niro. After midnight, his regular companion Kathy Smith arrived. The next morning, his trainer arrived for their usual jog and found the door locked. Hotel staff finally entered around noon on March 5th and discovered Belushi lifeless on the bed, 33 years old. Paramedics noted a cocktail of narcotics in his bloodstream. Smith later described repeatedly giving him injections, words that would land her in prison for her role in his demise. Why a hotel? Friends said Belushi loved that Marmmont staff shielded its guests. Paparazzi rarely breached the ivy-covered walls. Ironically, those very walls also muffled the cries that might have saved him. Suite number 3 was quietly redesigned, but the legend never faded. Newcomers still request the Belushi bungalow, as if proximity might transfer some comic spark. Instead, it serves as Hollywood's loudest caution against chasing the next thrill alone in a borrowed room. George Reeves, Benedict Canyon, Guest Suite, 1959. It was a warm June night in Benedict Canyon, Los Angeles. George Reeves, TV's original Superman, had just slipped into a silk robe after chatting with fiancée Leonore Lemon and a few late guests. Around 1 a.m., a single blast echoed through the rented bedroom upstairs. Reeves was discovered on the mattress, service revolver by his feet, the famous red cape neatly folded in a cedar chest nearby. Police treated it as a self-inflicted end brought on by career frustrations. His phone hadn't rung much since Adventures of Superman wrapped. Yet rumors flew faster than a speeding bullet. Was it a mob warning tied to studio politics? Did an old lover's jealous husband demand silence? Mysterious bruises noted by the coroner, missing fingerprints on the weapon, and conflicting statements from partygoers kept gossip columns buzzing for decades. Whatever happened in that room, Reeves's death transformed a mild-mannered TV hero into a Hollywood riddle. Fans still drive Mulholland to glimpse the Spanish-style house, half expecting to see a familiar red and blue silhouette in an upstairs window. His final chapter whispers a lesson. The line between invincible icon and vulnerable man may be thinner than a comic book panel. Montgomery Clift, Barbizon Plaza Hotel, New York City, 1966. Montgomery Clift's face once sold the very idea of tortured beauty. By July 1966, he was 45, nursing chronic pain from a near-fatal 1956 car crash and surviving on black coffee, strong pain relief, and sleepless rewrites of his lines. While prepping for an early flight to LA, he booked a quiet suite at Manhattan's Barbizon Plaza, close to doctors, far from paparazzi. Shortly before midnight, Clift phoned friend Elizabeth Taylor, thanked her for a recent care package, and ended with, "Good night, my darling. I'll see you in the morning." Hours later, his personal assistant found him in bed, glasses still on, script pages on the side table. A massive coronary had stilled the actor the New York Times once called the golden boy of method acting. News desks dusted off reviews he'd been rereading. From Here to Eternity, Red River, Judgment at Nuremberg. Many insisted the crash a decade earlier had been his true ending. The hotel room only wrote the epilogue. Today the Barbizon is condos, but old doormen remember an intense young man who tipped generously and asked for a mirror to be removed, saying he'd rather see his lines on paper than his reflection in glass. David Jansen, Caesar's Palace, Las Vegas, 1980. David Jansen, forever the fugitive to TV audiences, arrived in Vegas in February 1980 for a friend's birthday. He chose Caesar's Palace, a marble playground where celebrities could lay low, yet feel legendary. After dinner, he gambled lightly, ordered chamomile tea to his suite, and placed a wake-up call for a dawn tennis match. At 4:10 a.m., he woke short of breath, rang the switchboard, and gasped, "Send a doctor!" Security rushed up, but the 48-year-old's heart had already surrendered. Hotel management quietly swapped out the entire room decor before reporters arrived. They even filmed staged hallway shots for news crews so no camera would capture the real door. Jansen's sudden exit reminded Hollywood that action heroes often carry private ailments no stunt double can absorb. Today, visitors still ask which tower once housed him. Publicists won't confirm, but veteran bellmen tap a discreet brass number plate and murmur, "The doctor was 5 minutes too late." Then they wheel the luggage on, as if chasing someone still one step ahead. Albert Decker, Hollywood Garden Apartments, 1968. Character actor Albert Decker, memorably villainous in Kiss Me Deadly and powerful in The Wild Bunch, had a break between shoots in May 1968. He stayed at a stately apartment hotel off Yucca Street, popular with industry regulars who enjoyed housekeeping without the fuss of a full lease. When fiancée Geraldine Saunders couldn't reach him for 2 days, she borrowed a manager's pass key. Inside, Decker was found in a locked bathroom, kneeling in a complex arrangement of cords and scarves, surrounded by scattered film stills and a single spotlight lamp. Detectives labeled it a tragic accident arising from risky private behavior. The press leaned on innuendo, using phrases like unorthodox recreation. Police photographs were sealed for 40 years, finally surfacing in 2008 and reigniting debate over exactly what happened. The theater curtain closed on Decker at 62, but his estate earned new audiences when The Wild Bunch was reissued. Meanwhile, the remodeled building rarely advertises its past, yet some residents swear the elevator stops unbidden at Decker's floor. Lights flicker, and they catch the faint scent of stage makeup. Reminders that complexity often hides behind the neatest closed doors. Judy Garland, Cadogan Hotel, London, 1969. At 46, Judy Garland had spent 3 decades trading sleep for studio call times. In June 1969, she was in London, newly married to club promoter Mickey Deans, and booked for a small concert series. Money was tight. The Cadogan Hotel on Sloane Street offered privacy, and a wood-paneled bar where devoted fans toasted her nightly. On June 22nd, Deans found Garland seated on the bathroom floor, her head resting against the wall, an empty pill bottle nearby. The coroner ruled an accidental overdose of barbiturates, noting no signs of intent. Simply one dose too many for a wearied heart. News flashed worldwide. Dorothy had left Kansas for good. Room Suite 4 was closed for weeks, yet flowers overflowed the lobby. Reporters swarmed the Wizard of Oz star's teenage daughter, Liza Minnelli, who calmly told them, "Mama finally got some rest. The Cadogan keeps no plaque on the door. Management worries it would attract the wrong kind of pilgrimage. Still, bellhops whisper the tale, and some guests claim they hear faint singing late at night. Judy warming up, perhaps, for an eternal encore." Peter Finch, Beverly Hills Hotel, Los Angeles, 1977. Australian-born Peter Finch had just completed an exhausting press junket for Network, the film that would win him a posthumous Oscar. The satirical drama about television's corrupting influence had given him the role of his career. Howard Beale, the unhinged news anchor whose "I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore," became a cultural battle cry. At 60, Finch finally received the recognition that had eluded him through decades of distinguished work in British and Australian cinema. On January 14, 1977, he checked into Bungalow 3 at the Beverly Hills Hotel, that legendary pink palace where dealmakers and stars had sealed Hollywood fates for generations. He'd arranged lunch with journalist Peter Barber to discuss his sudden American breakthrough. They were chatting casually in the hotel's ornate lobby, surrounded by the familiar hum of industry conversation, when Finch suddenly pressed his hand to his chest. "I feel rather off," he told Barber, his voice betraying none of the theatrical fury that had defined Howard Beale. Within minutes, the veteran actor collapsed onto the marble floor. Paramedics rushed him to Cedars Sinai Medical Center, but a massive heart attack had already begun its fatal work. He died en route, though some witnesses insisted his heart stopped within those iconic pink walls. The location became part of Academy lore 2 months later. When Faye Dunaway posed poolside at the same hotel the morning after the Oscars, photographers captured her alongside Finch's golden statue, the first posthumous acting award in Oscar history, ensuring that even death couldn't silence Howard Beale's prophetic scream. Virginia Rappe, St. Francis Hotel, San Francisco, 1921. Silent-era actress Virginia Rappe arrived at the St. Francis Hotel on Labor Day weekend, 1921, her career quietly ascending through bit parts and modeling work. The 30-year-old had caught the eye of several producers, her dark beauty and expressive eyes promising bigger roles ahead. She'd been invited to comedy giant Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle's notorious party in the hotel's luxurious suite 1219, where bootleg gin flowed freely despite Prohibition's iron grip on the nation. The St. Francis represented San Francisco's crown jewel of hospitality, a palace of marble and crystal, where railroad barons and film moguls sealed deals over Cuban cigars. Arbuckle, earning $3 million annually as America's most beloved comedian, had rented multiple suites for his 3-day celebration, transforming the 12th floor into a hedonistic playground. According to surviving guests, Rappe fell violently ill after several drinks, crying out in agonizing pain. Witnesses later testified she was writhing on the bathroom floor, clutching her abdomen. She was moved to another room, then rushed to a hospital, where she died 4 days later from a ruptured bladder and internal injuries. Rumors of Arbuckle's brutal assault spread like wildfire through Hollywood's gossip networks. Although medical testimony suggested a pre-existing bladder condition caused by chronic cystitis and botched abortions, newspapers ran lurid headlines painting Arbuckle as a sexual predator. 3 highly publicized trials followed, He was eventually acquitted, but his career lay in ruins. The St. Francis quietly refurbished Suite 1221, and staff members refuse to discuss its number today. Rapp's modest filmography, a handful of shorts and comedies, faded behind sensational courtroom transcripts, transforming her from rising starlet into Hollywood's first cautionary tale. Sam Cooke, Hacienda Motel, Los Angeles, 1964. Soul pioneer Sam Cooke had revolutionized popular music by December 1964, his velvet voice bridging gospel, pop, and the emerging civil rights movement. At 33, he owned his own record label and publishing company, a rare feat for any black artist in the segregated entertainment industry. His recent composition, A Change Is Gonna Come, had become an anthem of hope and defiance, though he wouldn't live to see its full cultural impact. After a night of club hopping along Central Avenue, Cooke found himself at the Hacienda Motel on South Figueroa, a $3 a night establishment far removed from his usual Beverly Hills haunts. He'd arrived with 22-year-old Elisa Boyer, who later testified she feared Cooke's increasingly aggressive advances. According to her account, she escaped his room clutching his clothes, leaving the singer barefoot and enraged. The Hacienda catered to a transient clientele: truck drivers, late shift workers, and those seeking anonymity in the city's industrial corridor. Motel manager Bertha Franklin, a middle-aged woman who'd seen her share of late-night disturbances, was awakened by Cooke's furious pounding on the office door. He demanded she unlock the lobby, convinced Boyer was hiding inside. What followed remains disputed. Franklin claimed Cooke attacked her. She grabbed a pistol and fired once, striking him in the chest. He died instantly on the motel's linoleum floor. Police ruled the shooting justified, noting Cooke's high blood alcohol level and conflicting witness statements. However, fans and family members suspected foul play, pointing to $5,000 missing from his person and his ongoing battles with record executives over publishing rights. The Hacienda eventually rebranded, but visitors still leave roses on the cracked asphalt where mourners gathered that December morning. Janice Joplain, Landmark Motor Hotel, Hollywood, 1970. October 3, 1970, had been a productive day for Janice Joplain at Sunset Sound Studios. The 27-year-old was nearing completion of Pearl, the album that would cement her legacy as rock's most powerful female voice. Her last recording session captured her raw interpretation of Buried Alive in the Blues, her voice carrying the weight of countless nights spent chasing away loneliness with whiskey and wild performances. Joplain had been clean for months, her friends and bandmates noting a renewed energy and focus. But heroin had maintained its grip on her psyche, a constant shadow threatening to pull her back into its embrace. That evening, she drove her psychedelic Porsche to the Landmark Motor Hotel, a modest establishment on Franklin Avenue that catered to musicians and industry types seeking affordable lodging near the recording studios. The Landmark's Spanish-style architecture and palm-fringed courtyard offered a deceptive tranquility. Room 105 became Joplain's temporary sanctuary, a space where she could escape the pressures of fame and the expectations of being rock's most visible female rebel. She chatted briefly with the desk clerk, bought cigarettes from the lobby vending machine, and disappeared behind her door for the last time. When producer Paul Rothschild grew worried the following day, after Joplain missed a scheduled session, road manager John Cook used his master key to enter room 105. He found her face down beside the bed, still clutching change from her cigarette purchase. Coroner Dr. Thomas Noguchi determined she'd injected an unusually pure batch of heroin, the potent mixture combined with alcohol proving fatal. At 27, Joplain joined an emerging constellation of rock casualties, Hendrix had died just weeks earlier at the same age. The landmark became mile marker number 27 on Rock's tragic map. Graham Parsons, Joshua Tree Inn, California, 1973. Country rock pioneer Graham Parsons had always felt a mystical connection to the Mojave Desert, calling Joshua Tree a holy place to meet old friends in the sky. The 26-year-old had recently left the Flying Burrito Brothers and was crafting a solo career that would influence generations of alt-country musicians, though commercial success remained elusive. September 18, 1973, found Parsons at the Joshua Tree Inn with his road manager Phil Kaufman and several friends, planning a quiet desert retreat. The modest motel, with its rustic charm and proximity to the National Monument, provided the perfect escape from Los Angeles's music scene chaos. Parsons had been struggling with prescription drug abuse for years, his charisma and musical genius increasingly overshadowed by his self-destructive tendencies. Room 8 became their headquarters for what should have been a weekend of relaxation and songwriting. Instead, heavy drinking mixed dangerously with morphine capsules Parsons had been taking for chronic back pain. As the desert night deepened, his friends noticed his breathing becoming increasingly labored. At 1 a.m., motel owner Dale Hopkins found Parsons unresponsive on the bathroom floor. Paramedics rushed him to High Desert Memorial Hospital, but by dawn, the architect of cosmic American music was gone. The story took an unprecedented turn. Parsons had often joked that if he died in the desert, he wanted his ashes scattered at Cap Rock, a massive boulder formation he considered sacred. Two loyal friends, Phil Kaufman and Michael Martin, hijacked his casket from LAX airport, drove it back to Joshua Tree in a borrowed hearse, and attempted a makeshift cremation ceremony that ended with police sirens and newspaper headlines. Today, the Joshua Tree Inn markets Room 8 as a memorial shrine. Fans leave guitar picks, handwritten lyrics, and miniature tequila bottles on the doorstep nightly, transforming Parsons' final refuge into a pilgrimage site for country rock devotees seeking their own cosmic connection. Sid Vicious, Chelsea Hotel, New York City, 1979. The Chelsea Hotel had housed artists, poets, and misfits since 1884, its ornate Victorian facade concealing decades of creative chaos and personal tragedy. By 1979, punk bassist Sid Vicious had been living in room 100 while awaiting trial for the fatal stabbing of girlfriend Nancy Spungen, a crime that occurred in the same cramped space 4 months earlier. Vicious, born John Simon Ritchie, had become punk rock's most notorious figure despite limited musical ability. His relationship with Spungen had devolved into a heroin-fueled spiral of violence and codependency that horrified even the Chelsea's bohemian residents. The Sex Pistols had imploded, leaving Vicious adrift in New York's underground scene, his bail paid by Virgin Records executive Malcolm McLaren. Released temporarily from Rikers Island, Vicious marked his 21st birthday with a small gathering at his mother Anne Beverly's Greenwich Village apartment. Friends later described him as unusually quiet, perhaps contemplating his uncertain future. Murder charges, withdrawal symptoms, and the weight of his girlfriend's death had stripped away Punk's rebellious facade, revealing a damaged young man far from his working-class London roots. Around midnight, Vicious returned to the Chelsea's familiar chaos, the lobby filled with drag queens, artists, and night creatures who'd made the hotel their permanent home. Room 100 had become his prison cell, its blood-stained carpet a constant reminder of Nancy's violent end. At 11 a.m. on February 2nd, 1979, Anne found her son motionless on the narrow bed, a syringe nearby. Toxicology revealed a massive heroin overdose, whether from despair, celebration, or simple miscalculation remained unclear. Management renovated Room 100 extensively, eventually carving it into hallway space to deter souvenir hunters. Chelsea's art-soaked legend survived, but staff finally banned Sid and Nancy tours from front desk inquiries, though the requests continue decades later. Divine, Harris Glenn Milstead, Regency Plaza Hotel, Los Angeles, 1988. Fresh off filming Hairspray, actor-singer Divine was set to begin shooting the sitcom Married with Children the next morning. On March 7th, he dined with friends, joked about dieting, then retired to his Regency Plaza suite. When he missed call time, producers phoned the front desk. Housekeeping entered and found him asleep forever, felled by enlarged heart complications at 42. Fans were stunned. Divine had just broken out of cult cinema into mainstream TV. The show left an empty chair on the set for a week. Today, the Regency Plaza is demolished, replaced by condominiums. But local drag performers annually light candles on its former sidewalk, celebrating a star who proved full-figure glamour belongs on every red carpet. David Strickland, Oasis Motel, Las Vegas, 1999. Comedian David Strickland, beloved as Todd on Suddenly Susan, took a spontaneous trip to Vegas after a stand-up set in LA. He checked into the low-budget Oasis Motel under his own name. Room 6, declined maid service, and spent hours at blackjack tables. On March 22nd, police responded to reports of a disturbance. They discovered the 29-year-old actor deceased, a note addressed to his father nearby. Authorities listed self-inflicted hanging, exacerbated by depression and alcohol. Strickland's battle with mood disorders had been public, but friends believed he was improving. The contrast between network TV success and the dim Oasis room galvanized discussions on mental health in Hollywood. The motel, once proud of its neon Oasis sign glowing pink against desert nights, now sees more camera crews than gamblers. David Keredine, Swiss Hotel Nai Lert Park, Bangkok, 2009. At 72, Kung Fu icon David Keredine was in Thailand filming Stretch. On June 3rd, he dined with the crew, then returned alone to Suite 352. Next afternoon, a hotel maid found him in a closet, lifeless under puzzling circumstances. Thai police first suggested self-harm. Family requested an FBI inquiry, pointing to possible foul play. Forensic reports remained inconclusive, citing asphyxiation caused by a rope. The tabloid whirl overshadowed Keredine's 5-decade career, from his calm Shaolin monk persona to the brooding Bill in Tarantino's revenge saga. The Bangkok suite was sealed for weeks. Management eventually refurnished it, but guests still ask, is this where the American star stayed? A question staff answer with a quick nod and a change of subject. Whitney Houston, Beverly Hilton, Los Angeles, 2012. Grammy weekend at the Beverly Hilton already buzzed with reporters when Whitney Houston checked into Suite 434. On February 11th, she rehearsed for Clive Davis's annual gala downstairs, greeting old friends with trademark warmth tempered by visible fatigue. At 3:36 p.m., her assistant stepped out to run errands. 30 minutes later, she returned to find Houston submerged in the bathtub. Hotel security launched a code blue. Paramedics worked for 20 minutes before pronouncing her gone at 48. Coroners cited accidental drowning, plus heart disease complicated by stimulant use. Within hours, global networks turned the Hilton into a floodlit hive. Davis controversially continued the gala as emergency crews worked 2 floors above, leading some guests to leave mid-song in tears. The Hilton remodeled Suite 434, but never again assigned it during Grammy week. a silent nod to the voice once called the greatest. If these walls could talk, they'd whisper songs by Sam Cooke, riotous jokes from John Belushi, and Janice Joplain's raspy laugh echoing down a smoke-filled corridor. But they'd also remind us that fame doesn't grant immunity from loneliness, hidden illness, or one dangerous choice too many. The next time you step into a hotel elevator and feel that hush of recycled air, remember the stories riding with you. Which chapter struck you hardest? Do you believe privacy hinders help? Or does the road simply magnify frailties already in place? Let's talk in the comments. Share respectful thoughts, favorite performances, maybe a song that still gives you goosebumps. And if a friend seems to be drifting behind a locked door, knock twice. You might rewrite their ending. Hit subscribe for more untold Hollywood history, mysteries, comebacks, and the hidden deals that shaped everything you watch today. Until next time, may your travels be safe and your room key open more beginnings than endings.